Thanks for joining us, everyone. Welcome to the Pitchside Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the BSB. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast and all other content on the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at SouthBSB on Twitter, Pitchside Pod on Instagram, and you can listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Welcome to this episode, and you are welcome. Join us for always more. Despite the fact we're talking about AC Milan really in the show in the discussion point, but we cannot start from we cannot just start like that. We will start from the rightful place to start. It is the Copa del Rey semi-final second leg between Barcelona and Sevilla, and the comeback has happened. It took extra time. It took a late goal from Gerard Piqué, but the comeback happened. The remontada happened for Barcelona. Finally, I think this was a crucial game for their season anyway, because they needed something to hang on to, really, because this season it looks like they're out of everything, but the Copa del Rey might be a salvation, really, to say that they had a decent season. Ronald Koeman entered this game with a similar sort of tactic to the league game as we expected, the 3-4-2-1-2, really, with Messi and Dembele up top, Pedri behind them, De Jong and Busquets, Dest and Alba, Lenglet, Piqué and Mengueza in the back. This time it was all about Barcelona being decisive, I would say, and I would really recommend Barcelona and credit them for being absolutely decisive when they should have been. An early goal, as all big comebacks need, from Dembele in the 15th minute. The goal just, sort of brought Barcelona into life even more against a Sevilla side that was set up in a 4-4-2 way, setting up to defend, really, and play on the counter. It was a clear motto. I think this was as classic of a setup as it could get for Sevilla. 4-4-2, flat 4-4-2 really, defending really deep and trying to play on the counter. And they almost scored Barcelona. There were spaces. It wasn't exactly a perfect defensive performance from Barcelona. There were spaces, there were situations where Sevilla could have gone for it, but eventually the decision making wasn't exactly on point. They didn't have any chance really to disturb the rhythm of the game, and 1-0, they kept it 1-0 as long as possible. They had a golden opportunity to equalise from the spot with Lucas Ocampos shooting a ridiculous penalty, I would say, into Ter Stegen's arms. It was easy to save, no problems for the German goalkeeper. That, I think, right there was the moment where Sevilla died, because Barcelona, after that penalty, really went for it forward. They really, really went for it. Jordi Alba missing a shot on the post, missing having a couple of opportunities, Griezmann having a couple of opportunities, and, Sevilla defended even deeper, and in the last minute, literally the last minute of the game, 94th minute, inside the stoppage time, Gerard Piqué makes it 2-0, unlikely saviour, from a set piece that was, there was a doubt that the ball was out already from a clearance early on in that action, but the referee didn't check VAR. So the goal stood, and Gerard Piqué made it 2-0 for Barcelona, and also with 10-man Sevilla just before that goal, with Fernando being sent off. That Sevilla are not going to be the same. That Barcelona are going to go for it. They did, and they added the third goal early on in the first half of the extra time, thanks to Martin Braithwaite, who came on later on in the game. The great comeback, I think, for Barcelona. Maybe not the perfect performance if you're going to dissect it and look at it in details, really. But, as a result, it will matter always for the Barcelona fans. The comeback would be always amazing for them. They would love to see something like that. This season, of course, the season has been disappointing for them. They would want the trophy. That would really, sort of save their season, because in the Champions League, they had no chance. We all know that against PSG. In the league, it almost looks like, a matter of time before Atletico Madrid wins it. Even so, we have somewhat of a title race at the moment going on in La Liga. As far as Sevilla are concerned, I'm really disappointed with their performances. I didn't think they would sit this deep, or they would play this defensively, or they would play this sort of, it's lifeless. It's a lifeless performance from Sevilla. You don't deserve to go through to the final of the Cup, even if you win at home 2-0. If you're playing this lifeless away from home, knowing that Barcelona are going to be putting the pressure on you, and it was pressure since minute 1. So, you're going to lose, and with the 10-man situation at the end, entering into extra time with 10 men. It was the killing blow for Sevilla. There was no return from that. And even at extra time, we thought, okay, Sevilla might snatch a goal there to keep, to go through, but it didn't happen. Barcelona go through the final of the Copa del Rey. It's an important comeback, a really, really important situation, but a couple of side notes as well. They might lose Piqué for injury. He looked bad. He looked really bad in the last couple of minutes of the game. Also, that might give them hope against PSG, but again, no chance really of going through to that Copa del Rey final. Congratulations, that Champions League quarterfinal. Congratulations, Barcelona, one more time. Of course, the second match of this, this semi-final is going to take place today. Atletico Bilbao are going to be, traveling to face Levante, of course, in the second leg. The first leg ended 1-1. The game is pretty open for all options. From the Spanish Cup, we move to the German Cup, the DFB Pokal, and the second batch of the quarterfinal matches took place yesterday. RV Essen went out to the team that Bayern Munich went out against, Holstein Kiel. 3-0 it was for the second division side. It was a decisive victory against RV Essen. Both of them eliminated big teams in the preceding rounds. Of course, RV Essen eliminating Bayer Leverkusen on the way to this, and of course Holstein Kiel eliminating Bayern. The second match, of course, is the most important really. RB Leipzig defeating Wolfsburg 2-0 to go through to that semi-final of the competition. The goals coming on from Youssef Boulsin and Wan Hee-chan late on in the game. Although Wolfsburg put on a great defensive performance, I would say, for most part, but they fell down in the second half. Deservedly victorious, I think. RB Leipzig overall dominating the game, having more possession, trying a lot of chances. Wolfsburg tried to sneak in with a couple of counters behind, but they couldn't do just enough. It's a competition, I think, worth winning for RB Leipzig. They are still in the competition. Dortmund still in the competition. Have Holstein Kiel and whoever's going to be winning between Werder Bremen and Regensburg. Mostly, but it would be Werder Bremen, but these surprises happened in this competition already, and they could happen even more if Regensburg managed to defeat Werder Bremen. RB Leipzig are really favourites in my mind to win this competition and to win the DFB Pokal. It's going to be their first trophy in the top flight. It's going to be also, sort of a stamp of approval, at least footballing-wise, that they are a giant force indeed in the German football and a force to be reckoned with. They're still in the league title race in Germany, and they are here in the semi-final of the DFB Pokal. For Wolfsburg, recommendable performance overall in the game, but just not efficient. Similar to probably what Sevilla were doing, lifeless performance mostly, but, they had a bit more chances than what Sevilla did against Barcelona. They still have Champions League places in the league to contend for. They are in a pretty decent situation in the top of the table there, so probably they won't be afraid that this loss will affect them. They have the rest of the season to focus on. Get to the Champions League probably is going to be the biggest priority for Wolfsburg this season, who are one of the best sides really in the Bundesliga. Congratulations for RB Leipzig, Dortmund and Holstein Kiel, and waiting of course for the reschedule between Regensburg and Werder Bremen. To Italy now, and the Serie A, of course, round 25 from the Serie A. 7 matches took place, of course, on Wednesday. On Tuesday, Lazio, of course, didn't play Torino. We all talked about that situation in that game. Juventus defeated Spezia 3-0, but still they didn't look that good. But on Wednesday, it was goals galore really in the Serie A. 3-3 it ended. In the Mapei Stadium between Sassuolo and Napoli. Sassuolo went ahead with Maksimovic's own goal in the 34th minute. Piotr Zielinski equalised in the 38th. Berardi with the penalty in the last minute of the first half. Then, of course, Di Lorenzo equalising for Napoli, bringing them back to a 2-all point. Then Insigne with a penalty in the 90th minute. Thought that he had the game won for Napoli, only for Francesco Caputo to score from the penalty spot on the other end and equalised for Sassuolo, giving them an important point, giving them the point that probably, I mean, it's going to be really useful maybe down the line. 36 points for Sassuolo now in 9th, and Napoli, Napoli's credits really freeze in 44 at the 6th position. That result doesn't help really when you're looking for a top 4 qualification. It's pretty tight up there, by the way, and it won't help really if you're losing points. Even with the game in hand, if you're losing points around that game, it's not positive. Atalanta defeated Crotone 5-1 as well. It was great showing really from Atalanta. Josip Ilicic opening the score, Semi equalising for Crotone, Palomino making it 2-0, Muriel making it 2-1 really. Muriel making it 3-1, Ilicic making it 4-1, and Miranchuk coming in as a sub, getting his share of the spoils and scores the 5th goal. The bad thing about this game is though that Robin Gosens was substituted very late on. It looked like he picked up an injury, and that might not be good. They're already missing on Hatiboa on the right hand side, and they don't want to lose Gosens. It will be a big loss if they want to lose him long term ahead of the Champions League game against Real Madrid. But the good point is Zapata looked fine, and he returned against Crotone, and he scored and he assisted for the 5th goal as well. Verona defeated Benevento away 3-0. Bologna lost to Cagliari at home 1-0. Fiorentina lost to Roma 2-1, an important victory for the Romans, and it was Leandro Spinazzola's show really in this game. He scored for his team and against his team. He scored the opener and the equaliser in the space of 12 minutes in the second half, and then of course Karsdorp assisting Amadou Diawara for the 2nd goal of Roma 2-1, an important victory for the Wolves of the capital that keeps them pretty close, even at 5th, to the top 4 conversation. It's a pretty tight space up there in that top 4 of the Serie A, which is always interesting to see. And Genoa, of course, on the derby, drawn against Sampdoria 1-1. Zappacosta opened the scoring 52 minutes, and Tonelli equalised thanks to Antonio Candreva's pass in the 77th. The big game, though, the big point here in Serie A is AC Milan, a draw against Udinese. We said yesterday that the game was going to be hard. We said that they struggled against them in the first one with a fully fit squad and a full lineup of players. So how you expect the game to go on with them missing Benasser, Rebic, Ibrahimovic, Mandzukic, Çalhanoğlu as well? It was pretty much the tough game that we expected. Milan had, for the first half really, they started really strong. They started defending, they defended really well, and Udinese pretty much didn't have anything to do. But still, the ineffectiveness from AC Milan was a problem in the second half on set-piece defending, nonetheless, which is a recurring problem for AC Milan this season, defending set-piece pretty badly. Becao managed to score the opener from a Rodrigo de Paul corner, and then of course Milan entered some sort of panicking mood really. But despite that, after the goal, Pioli made only one substitution, making 3 before the goal, which was weird. Getting Swaliho Meite in, Davide Calabria in, Jens Hauge in as well. So it's pretty interesting to see how things. It was pretty interesting to see how things panned out in the end. Milan tried and heightened up their pressure in the second half, but they couldn't manage a goal until the 95th minute of the game, 97th minute actually of the game, where Frank Kessie got a penalty. It was one of those stupid penalties really, where the player goes up in the air, handles the ball, and you don't understand why, and he gives away a penalty. Frank Kessie settles in and scores the equaliser late on, saving a point for AC Milan, a point where I officially can say AC Milan are out of the title race. I don't really think that with this kind of form they could keep up with Inter, who have all the luxury of the fully fit squad it's 3 points again. It's 3 points now, but potentially with a win against Parma for Inter, it could go to 6. And I don't know why I have a feeling that AC Milan are out. And I know people probably would point out that it's only 3 points. Mathematically, they're still in. But I don't see Milan with this inconsistency, with this way of form, with this way of playing, with this sometimes, sort of unexplainable drop in the level of their physical presence really on the pitch. The stamina dropping unexplainably as well. I think it's pretty hard to convince yourself that AC Milan are still in the title race. Inter Milan could win against Parma and they make it 6 points of difference, and from there it is really going to be a hard situation for AC Milan. It doesn't look easy. I mean, the next couple of fixtures, as we mentioned yesterday, are pretty hard for AC Milan. There's the Europa League, of course, against Man United back and home, between them a game sandwiched with them, a game against Napoli in the league, and that is going to be in the space of a week. So imagine the physical presence, imagine the importance of those 3 games. In terms of returning to the fold of the Serie A title race, at least expecting a slip from Inter somewhere down the line, maybe that probably won't happen before the game against Atalanta. Realistically, Verona, of course, they had that before on Sunday. Then they have Man United on Thursday, AC Milan on Sunday, and hosting Man United the next Thursday. So it's going to be interesting to see how Milan deal with their next fixtures. But in my opinion, I mean, I'm throwing this judgment out there, and I know that Inter might slip, and that the judgment could bite me in the backside. But Milan, I think, in my opinion, out of the title race. It was good while it lasted. It was good while they had their form in, while they were undefeated, while they were having the star players. They were, motivated sort of play. It looks like they're not motivated a lot to play with these kind of injuries. If you saw Zlatan and Mandzukic on the bench yesterday, it just tells the whole story. He was so disappointed of his team, and overall, it doesn't look like they will have the best of times for the rest of the season. And with the Europa League getting harder and harder, and with the draw against Man United, not being kind to them really, because if there's a side that would love to pounce on them with those kind of injuries, it's Manchester United. I'm keeping my fingers crossed really that they keep themselves in the title race. I hope so, but again, with this inconsistency, with the injuries that they have, the bad form, the way that they play now, which is not good at all, in the last 4 games or so, it doesn't look really that they will keep themselves in the title race. Unfortunately, the Serie A fixtures, of course, they continue, of course, on Thursday, as you mentioned, with Parma facing Inter. Potentially could be 6 points by the end of the week for Inter ahead in the title race. Finishing off with the Premier League, and 3 games took place yesterday in the round 27 of matches. It was Burnley drawn against Leicester 1-1, and I think this is the time of the year where you expect Leicester to drop form. Really, they did. It's another bad result for them in the last couple of games. This is low-key a bad form really for Leicester, because in the last 5 games now, only 1 win, which was away to Aston Villa, a draw against Slavia Prague in the Europa League, elimination from the Europa League overall against Slavia Prague, the loss against Arsenal, and now the draw against Burnley. I mean, the good thing is they probably equalised in quick succession, quick time really. Comparatively, they managed to enter the break in that game 1-1 at half time, which is good, but again, the result and the form is not going to be that great, and they might even lose their top 4 spot. Really, it's in a big jeopardy at the moment as it stands. Yes, I mean, there are 5 points ahead of West Ham, but you don't know what could happen today. Of course, West Ham could win, they could become 2 points behind them. Chelsea would win against Liverpool, they become 3 points behind them. So it's going to be an interesting situation for the rest of the season to see how Leicester City are going to be trying to manage what they're going to be having in the rest of the season, because they still have a lot of injuries. I think in this game they still had a lot of injuries to deal with in this game. Obviously, James Maddison being absent isn't good news for them. They needed a player like him in these kind of situations, and this is the kind of game where you need a player who can open spaces, who can open the play, like James Maddison does for Leicester City. Sheffield United, with a 10-man, managed to defeat Aston Villa at home. David McGoldrick scoring in the 30th minute. Phil Jagielka getting sent off in the 57th minute, but it was brilliant defending from Sheffield United. Really, it's a defending. I mean, really, really good. This is kind of the one of those best games that Sheffield United have in this season. 14 points now they go, and they have a terrific. They had a terrific game against Aston Villa. I don't really care if it's defending, but that's what a team in the relegation zone would do. They would try to defend the best they can, and they will try just to do the best they could possibly do to keep the point or keep the victory that they have or anything like that. And in this case, it was a good victory for Sheffield United. It has to feel good for Chris Wilder. And the last game, of course, the third game, it was a goalless draw. It was Man United. It was a goalless draw. It was against Crystal Palace away from home. And this is, by the way, for United, the third game in a row where they draw 0-0. Counting the game against Sociedad in the Europa League. Now, draw against Sociedad Europa League 0-0, a draw against Chelsea 0-0, and now draw against Crystal Palace 0-0. And not even that, but in those three games, Manchester United didn't manage a lot of shots on target. Really, if you think about it, in the game against Sociedad, they managed four shots on target. In the game against Chelsea, I think they managed one or two. They managed only two. Managed only four against Chelsea on target, which means 8. But against Crystal Palace, this was just abysmal. Like, from a point of view of United fans, this was just abysmal. Only one shot on goal for United for the full game, despite having more possession, despite having more attempts. Crystal Palace had the most dangerous chances, I think, of the game in the second half in particular. And, in the first half, United dominated, they tried to have possession, they played offensively, but they only had one shot on target, they weren't exactly effective. And this is getting worrisome, because... yes, United's style of play isn't exactly exciting. We all know that. Under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, nothing is exciting, pretty much. They don't set up themselves to attack prolifically or to score a lot of goals, but certainly they defend pretty well. But it got to a point where it is really annoying for the United fans. It's getting boring outright for the United fans. They don't expect their side to win leagues or to win trophies with this kind of ineffective and uninspiring side. And against Crystal Palace, you need the 3 points. You need the wins to keep your momentum going, because you could lose your second place. You could easily use your second place, with a couple of other results like that, and with the nature of the Premier League this season, which is completely open behind Man City at least, they could lose their second spot pretty easily to Leicester, to West Ham, to Chelsea, to whomever's going to be coming behind them. They could easily lose their second spot, and, the bit of security that they feel in right now in that second spot, they could lose it easily for the rest of the rest of the season. And again, this is a big problem when it comes to scoring for United, because it is getting worrisome. The top scorers in the Premier League, you look at the top scorers of the Premier League, you see Salah with 17, Bruno Fernandes with 15, and is by far the best player in United. You have Kane 14, 13 for Son Heung-min, 13 for Patrick Bamford, Everton with 13, Jamie Vardy 12, Gundogan 11, Newcastle, Callum Wilson from Newcastle with 10, Watkins 10, then you have Rashford with 9, then you have the second scorer from Man United. It's seriously worrisome when your best scorer isn't even one of your strikers in Bruno Fernandes. He's their best player actually, but he's not one of their strikers, to be fair. You have, and mostly penalties, by the way. Let's put a big sort of tagline on it. But then you have Marcus Rashford, who scored 9 goals in. He played 24-25 games this season as a starter, proper starter, and he scored only 9 goals, and played most of them in the striker position before Cavani comes in and was introduced. The problem is getting really, really worrisome for Man United, and if you're going ahead with the season with this, you're still in the FA Cup, by the way, you're still in the Europa League, you want to win those trophies, and you cannot win those trophies if you have, an attack that is not threatening, if you have an attack that doesn't score, and if you have a team that doesn't want to play offensively, doesn't want to be effective in front of the goal. That's really about it. It's as simple as that for Manchester United. And, with these kind of form, this kind of win, this kind of sort of stats, really, in those games. One shot on target against Crystal Palace, you are not winning anything, let alone, I mean, the best they could do is just reach the Champions League next season and try to think about it next season, manage the games until the end of the season. Of course, the fixtures of the Premier League still continue today. 3 games are going to be played. West Brom against Everton, Fulham, Tottenham, and Liverpool are going to be playing Chelsea. Of course, this is the big game we're going to be reviewing, hopefully, later on tonight. And that's it from me with this episode. Thank you for joining us and watching the episode, listening to this episode. Follow us on social media, SidePSP on Twitter, PageSidePod on Instagram. Listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. But most importantly, subscribe, like, share, and comment on the YouTube version of the channel. Thank you for joining us again. I was your boy, the HOD of the BSP, and until next time, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.